mass killings, tribal clashes, ethnic cleansing, has always been led by using words to dehumanize a people. More than bullets, it is words that set the ground for ethnic disquiet. These are not words that we have chosen because we felt like, but rather they are words we have listed because we followed conversations and how those conversations have been framed towards violence.
That is Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia, who is the chairperson of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. He was releasing a statement towards the end of last week on terms that would be or are being termed as hate speech. We'll be looking at them later on in some of the slides, but one famous one has been Hatupangwingwi. And Kenya Kwanza spoke about this. Let's listen to what they said.
I'm told that the media people want me to remove my cape. Lakini mnajua hatupangwingwi. Mbona mnataka kutupanga? Ati wanafikiria ya kwamba watatumia vitisho na watatumia deep state. Ati na ingine inaitwa system. Na ati watapanga wa Kenya. Tunataka kuwaambia mtajua hamujui.
When Kenyans say watajua hawajui, how does that threaten our cohesion?
I will be one of those who will defy NCIC. And therefore, on this platform today, I have an opportunity to say to Kenyans, musipangwe, musikubali, hatupagwigwi.
Stop wasting your time trying to re-engineer our literature. I think it is an exercise in futility to try and tell us which Kiswahili words we should use and which English words we should use. We are decent people. We are intelligent people. We are knowledgeable people. We know what we are saying.
Instead of banning nobody can stop reggae, you are banning the word tutalinda kura. We want to tell you from here and telling our supporters, tutalinda kura yetu.
You'll have to expand the prisons because Kenyans are saying hawatapangwa. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. Those are the political leaders from Kenya Kwanza responding to the statement by NCSA. I just want to put it into context. Hatupangwingwi, according to NCSA, is a statement used to underscore the fact that some families or communities have been at the periphery of national leadership and influence for so long, and they no longer want to remain out. Then the term that talks about watajua hawajui, translated to mean they will know that they do not know. This statement is perceived that the opponents daring a party on an issue will be surprised by the vicious nature of responses they will meet in return. That NCSA thinks should not be being said on our political platforms. Let me begin with Dr. Pamela Odhiambo. What are your reflections on these sentiments, and how then do we manage the political campaigns of 2022 with some of these terms being said to be quite sensitive? First of all, are you in agreement with the list?
I don't have that full list. If you share it with me, I would say whether I'm in agreement with the whole of it or not. But allow me to comment about this issue from two perspectives. First, I would like to underscore the fact that I am a teacher also by profession, and a language teacher for that matter, apart from the business that I also handle and where I've finally majored. So from linguistics perspective, words sometimes do not have real absolute meanings, but they would have meanings according to the context and the circumstances under which they are used. And that is very important to note. Now, in my opinion, from the language perspective, yes, these words are Kiswahili words, as the deputy president claims, and they can be used. But then, in the context under which they are being used currently, then they are simply communicating an intent to defy. And in fact, what you have just played from Alice Wahome, I think that was her voice, said, I will defy. And you see, when we are talking about systems, deep state, and all those kind of things, it is actually eliciting the defiant kind of behavior from Kenyans. And while it is good sometimes to express a differing opinion, then when people are prepared and psyched just to be defiant, then that brings a problem that needs to be handled, that needs to be tackled, especially given the nature of politics as it has been in Kenya. I think this is what could be the concern of the chair of the coalition team, who has just talked about that list. So I think it is important that we also understand that. Number two, I wanted now to comment, again as a Kenyan, who knows that we have different cultural orientations and different meanings attached to words that we use. So sometimes our politics has been such that we create some things or some expressions that become very quickly slogans. Some of them are tough ones, like the term now hatupangwingwi. You know, I don't think when people are dialoguing and campaigning and giving their reasons or requesting for order to be maintained, then ni kupangwa. It is just keeping order. And with that, when we look at even a family unit where there would be no order, then a mother says something and the husband and children say atupangwingwi, you know, that disorder is not right.
Okay.
And so with these expressions from the cultural point of view, with the many diverse cultures that we have, and you know, language is a vehicle of driving culture, language is a way of communicating. And so sometimes as in the political platforms, we have had kind of overtones of certain things that we may take to mean it is just a campaign. But the effect that these things have on the listeners sometimes is far-reaching. For example, allow me to say that if you look at the Western region, composing of the Luyas, where my friend Baraza come from, and even the Luo community around Nyanza, you'll find most of the political discourse, a lot of sexuality is used. And to them, this may sound funny. Sometimes people laugh, people are excited about it. But then come with this kind of expressions and languages to Central region or even the Maasai land. And some of these expressions, the elderly or people who want to close their ears or even take off.
Okay.
And this makes me say that it is important, even as we campaign, to understand the expression I'm now using. How is it being perceived by the other people who are listening to me?
Okay, all right. I hear you, Dr. Pamela Odhiambo. Let's listen to Dr. Kobia on his appeal to the political class.
As we read out these words, we urge you to not look at it with the typical political exuberance, but with the soberness. Politicians must remember that though it is easier to mobilize via division, it is much more noble to mobilize by unity and bridging the divides that can form between us.
Honorable Barua, do you see any merit in that list of NCAC? Do you have a reason to be concerned when some of those terms, there are many, but it would appear that hatupangwingwi, kulinda kura, watajua hawajui would appear to have really captured the attention of Kenyans. Do you agree with that list, and should we be worried?
I think first I would like to say that before I answer your question, is that as citizens and as politicians, we also must have the capability to respect institutions. And when I hear a statement from Alice Wahome saying that I would defy that, and she's in the top leadership of a party, that sends a bad signal that people can defy without consequences. That creates radicalization. The other thing I would like to take you back to 2007, when there were tribal clashes in this country. And one of the terms that was used was madoadoa. We don't want madoadoa. Of course, we all know what it meant. It meant that madoadoa is various tribal communities exist in a certain area. But when I look at that madoadoa term, to me it's complete, it was a very strong term which could have caused division. When I look at the one to Pangwingwi, from where I sit, it can cause radicalization. But I think if it's not given attention, it may have no consequence. Because I think this is a term that has emerged from the people themselves, saying that to Pangwingwi, and I'm sure UDA is reacting to the other side of the political divide. I don't think that term in itself, if where I sit from, can cause that type of division. If I was never recovered myself, I would have not focused on it so much, and I would focused on other areas. For example, there are issues which have been mentioned by some politicians, like that we stole votes. That's a serious issue. That should have been taken to conclusion. It has not been taken to conclusion so far. We have heard from the other side of the division, people saying ABCD, or bad things about one another. And I think that is what, for example, if you are referring to a Luo man based on circumcision, to me that's a bad thing. But you are looking at things like Pangwingwi, which is just causing excitement. I think I'll not focus on it. Okay. What I would like to say is that the National Cohesion and Integration Commission should focus on the real issues to ensure that when it comes 20 August this year, the results of one of the results of the elections will not be violence. So they should be able to operate in a very neutral way. And I'm happy that the commission has summoned people from various parts of the design. They even summoned Raila Odinga. You remember that? For some comments he made, and actually he apologized. So it means they are putting to order. They can summon anybody else from there. He
never appear at NCSC.
But he didn't appear, but that's their business. But here he apologized. But I'm not actually defending, but I'm saying so. So the commission, to me, from where I sit, should be able to act independently and objectively. Okay. Without favoring any side of the political divide. Because violence in this country, if it ever happens, it will not affect Kenya Kwanza, and not affect Azimio. It's going to affect all of us together. So the institution from where I come from should be able to safeguard the peace of this country. The other issue is that it is not just enough to go to the media and say that we have defied. You need to go further and show leadership. Because you look at the deputy president, for example, he is still part of this government. He's a part of the Kenya government. He's a deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. So whether he's doing what's supposed to do or not, that's not our business. He should own up whatever is being done by the commission, which they actually put in place. He is part and parcel of it. So he should not be shouting after the fact, just because of some other reasons, which are emerging from the relations between himself and his boss. That's different from Kenyans.
Honorable Barua, listen to this and tell me whether you find anything threatening. Operation Linda Kura is a statement perceived as a rallying call by the political party to ensure that there will be rigging. This statement is perceived as a rallying call by the political party to ensure that there will be rigging and voters should police the process on the poll day. If people not mandated to be observers, political party agents, or any other functionaries remain in the polling stations during the poll day, it may portend a recipe for violence.
Operation Linda Kura is that every political formation, be it Kenya Kwanza or be it Azimio, they have a duty to ensure that their votes are protected. But the votes are protected in the law. And what they are saying here is that people who are not mandated in the polling station, not being there, that's one that should be enforced. But maybe the word operation is the one which is actually threatening, but protecting your vote, that's why you have got the agents in polling stations. Yeah.
All right. Wakili Muriu, so we've seen this before, and just recently we saw the High Court gave a judgment on the Sabina Chege versus IBC issue and said that IBC cannot summon a politician, because it's only 4 commissions that should do that, or 4 organs. That is the National Land Commission, the Judicial Service Commission, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and the Office of the Auditor General. Only those 4 constitutionally can summon anyone. So meaning NCSC cannot summon, IBC may not summon. So what then should we do? Because it appears that it's such a free market for politicians. How do we tame them?
Thank you, Sam. First and foremost, I want to say that as UDA party, we stand for peaceful coexistence of all the communities in this republic. And therefore, the UDA party will be the last institution to incite the public against each other. And just coming to your question, I want to answer like this. We have a challenge in this country whereby institutions have become what you call, instead of executing the mandate as stated in the Acts of Parliament, and I'm talking about NSI Act, you find that they are taking instructions from other quarters. And I want to say this, in this sense.
From who specifically?
Yes, and let me explain. If you look at what Reverend Kobia talked about, it is slang or conversations which only happen on one side of the political divide, and that is UDA party and the Kenya Kwanza. They're the ones who use to Talinda Kura. They're the ones who talk about Sipangwingwi and this kind of thing. But what
had Operation Linda Kura from NASA?
Yes, previously. Yeah, I'm coming there. But you find, and someone said very clearly, things like nobody can stop reggae, things like Tibim, Tialala, nobody's talking about it. My challenge here is this. I think there is an overreach in terms of these institutions. They are taking instructions instead of, first and foremost, being following the tenets of the law under which they're provided for. Secondly, just coming to your issue about the Sabina Chege and the IBC, you find that the NSI Act is very weak. In fact, the only role NSI is supposed to do is to receive complaints.
You mean NCSC or NSI?
NSI. The NSI, that is National Cohesion Integration Commission. The
NCIC.
NCIC, yes. Yes, absolutely. Which is provided for by Act number 12 of 2008. The very composition and the write-up of that act, it is very weak. In fact, there's no provision where they're supposed to provide which words are offensive, which words are not offensive. They don't even have even what you call summoning power. Their role is purely to receive complaints and build consensus. That's it. And secondly, remember, even look at this act, is an act whereby all the appointee are a presidential appointee. This commission sits under the Minister of Interior. Therefore, your guess is as good as mine on who gives the instruction. So challenge here, Sam, is that our institutions have this what we call institutional capture, whereby instead of addressing the issues of the day and the issues which can be able to promote cohesion within our country, they are going to on what matters called periphery. And I'll say this, one of the challenges of this country is about resource allocation. This commission ought to ask, who decides where development goes? That's number one. Number two, what is the composition of the people employed in government and public institutions in terms of ethnicity? Because that's where the challenge is, because people do not fight, people fight for resources. People fight for opportunities. People do not fight because they are some rally or this kind of thing. So they need to address the genesis of all issues. How are resources allocated? Why should this area get more roads or get more dams than the other? That's the things that's supposed to address, as opposed to on periphery and grammatical and speech issues.
So within this campaign, what should they do? Because there are certain things that are being said, including what he talks about, that we stole votes. These are things that have been said by Sabina Chege, not in those specific terms, but also Moses Kuria saying that tulikuwa tukiiba, though he tried to explain it away. So what should NCSA be doing with such sort of sentiments?
Sadly, the NSAC Act does not provide for any meaningful. I've said that the basic operative clauses on this Act is purely to receive complaints about any issues about hatred and investigate and build consensus. It's a very weak act, and I think we have a job to do, myself and my colleagues over here in the next parliament, to ensure that if you want NCIC to be effective and address hate issues and bring harmony in this country, expand it, strengthen it, as opposed to looking for periphery issues.
I want to disabuse one issue before you proceed.
Yes.
My friend here has saying that NCIC commissioners are appointees of the president. I want to refute that.
As the Act.
Because those commissioners go through a competitive process. What happened finally is that the president is given a list from among the people who have applied and interviewed who qualified, whereby he suggests or he appoints from that list. So those are not direct employees of the president. They are actually people who go through a competitive process. And they must meet some basic minimum, which they have already met. The other issue is talking about NCIC Act. The fact that I don't disagree that the Act could be weak, but that does not stop the committee from acting on its own motion and discussing an issue and giving the advice to the respective authority for implementation. I have served in a committee before. I've served in a committee, several committees before, like the Public Complaints on Environment. I was actually the secretary. And I knew we did a lot of impact because we could identify an issue, receive the complaint, do the investigation, and make a report, which you could either give the Minister for Environment or the Director General of NEMA, and action was taken. So what I'm saying is that if NCIC identifies an issue which things may cause conflict in this country, they are at liberty to zero on it, discuss it, investigate it, and give it the relevant authority, the respective ministry for action. So in other words, I'm saying, the fact that they don't have prosecutional powers or arresting powers does not make them toothless. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just looking at Section 17 of the NCSA Act, and it talks about the commission shall consist of a chairperson appointed by the president from amongst the commissioners appointed under paragraph B. And B talks about 8 commissioners nominated by the National Assembly in accordance with the first schedule and appointed by the president. So the chairperson of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is also a member of that commission. The chairperson of the National Commission on Gender and Development is a member, and the chairperson of the Public Complaints Standing Committee, that is the ombudsperson. And I'll be shortly looking at the schedule to look at the specifics of who are those members and how are they appointed. But Honorable Baraza, what do you think, because you're a politician and you're also looking to retain your seat, I believe, how do you suggest that the institutions, state agencies, or the institutions that are in this area of checking the sentiments that are said during the campaign, how do you suggest that they are addressed?
One, some of these institutions actually they draw confidence to engage in what they do from the leaders. For example, we have a committee in Parliament that oversight NCIC, the Cohesion Committee chaired by Honorable Maina Kamanda. You've seen Honorable Maina Kamanda calling some people thieves. We cannot vote for thieves, which is very clearly. Even the head of state himself has been saying that I cannot hand over it to a thief, you know. And these people have made NCIC to be a busybody, always acting in ultra vires. The commission has been weaponized to fight politicians who are not allied to a particular way. I say so because they have ignored the very basic things that threaten cohesion. Things like an equal distribution of resources, one state department having more employees from a particular ethnic group. These are very basic things that are threaten cohesions. Now they are addressing the pettiness of the English. Sipangwingwi, even from the description by NCIC about where they think that Sipangwingwi is a term that Kenyans feel two families have led us for a very long time. What's wrong? What's the problem with that? Things like uncircumcised. You are either circumcised or not, and that is your culture. We respect you. I mean, what's the problem with that? Things like Linda Kura. Linda Kura actually is anchored in law. The reason why parties are allowed to have agents and observers is to protect the integrity of the voting process and votes not to be lost. So what needs to be done here is that NCIC need a refresher training of not less than 2 years for them to understand their mandate. Lastly, I want to, and Honorable Njok Barua knows this, when you see coalition sitting on the table, you are saying that that NCIC commissioners are not appointed by a president and that they are recruited competitively. When you see parties forming coalitions and you see they are saying we are sharing government, so you give 30%, so you give for who, so you 20%, so you give for who. I mean, that is what the law says. The law says they should be recruited competitively. But I tell you for free that after 2017 general elections, politicians met in the State House and names were forwarded, and those are the people who found themselves on the NCIC list. Yes, they were recruited competitively, but the competitive was guided in a particular way by the head of state. There is nobody who could find himself there without being approved by the head of state. Let me tell you why. Before the handshake, you saw, when the handshake came in, you saw a number of Kenyans whose names and surnames suggest that they come from a particular region, or whose associations suggest that they are friends of someone. You saw them lose jobs, and the majority of the people who are replacing them, their names and their associations suggest they are friends of someone. So does it mean, therefore, that meritocracy also shifts the goalposts depending on who and where that person is required to? So I can agree with the Wakili Muriu that those NCIC, they were appointed by the President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and they are therefore subject for manipulations, for misuse. And that's why we are saying that in the Kenya Kwanza government, we will free institutions so that they can function as per
it's interesting that you said that they are competitively recruited. Then go ahead to say that they are appointed by the president. Because I'm looking at the first schedule of the Act, and it talks about the clerk of the National Assembly advertising for people that are interested to be commissioners to apply, and then they will be interviewed, and after that, the National Assembly shall recommend, upon receipt of the recommendations of the committee under paragraph 3, nominate 15 persons for appointment as commissioners and shall submit the list of nominees to the minister for honor transmission to the president. And then they say that the minister shall forthwith forward the names and the persons to the president, who shall by notice in the Gazette appoint therefrom 8 commissioners. So I'm just wondering, I mean,
Kenyans are more clever than you, Sam. You've read what the law provides. Have you audited that the recruitment was in terms of what you've read? Have you audited?
That's what I'm asking you.
Let me finish.
You said
competitive.
Just hold on, Honorable Didmas. You spoke about competitive recruitment, but you then said that they are presidential appointees. Just hold on, Dr. Pamela. You also said that they are presidential appointees. How exactly did Parliament lose their role, which is in the Act?
Exactly, that was saying.
The role of Parliament is to look at the suitability of these persons in terms of Chapter 6, in terms of qualifications, and the fact that you are qualified before Parliament doesn't mean that you are competitively recruitment. We don't look at when the advertisement was made, when the application was made. Is there any communication between so-and-so and so-and-so that please apply for this job? We look at the suitability of the names that are presented before us for approval.
No.
We don't We don't go back.
First schedule of the NCSC Act talks about procedure for nominating commissioners by the National Assembly.
Yes.
The clerk of the National Assembly shall, within 14 days of the commencement of this Act, of course this is when it was coming into effect, by advertisement in the Gazette and in at least 3 daily
Yes.
newspapers of national circulation, invite applications from persons qualified under this act for nomination as commissioners.
I agree. That is what the law provides for.
Yes.
But have you audited the recruitment of these
No, no,
people?
no.
to
You're
be
making the
able-
allegation.
They have not.
Sam, let me say something to Baraza here.
Sam, may I say something?
Sam is already...
Just hold on.
Okay.
Let's listen to Dr. Pamela Odhiambo. What do you have to say?
Sam, I think Honorable Didymus Barasa should be a little serious and stop
Yeah.
misleading the country.
Exactly.
Why? Because when he's saying that the committees check on the suitability of the candidates, we are here, we have worked in those committees and those parliaments. And what we are doing is that one of the things that we check, even before these people appear before us, is that was the advertisement soliciting for applicants done on time? Did people apply? Was there a shortlisting? And all these documents are always attached by the clerk to give to the committee. And it is important to note that this committee was not formed yesterday, this NCIC. It was formed, and these people were appointed during the time that Jubilee was running the government. And at that point, Jubilee was composed of what now they call the President Uhuru team and the Deputy President Ruto team that they have now renamed ODA. Baraza was part of that. And so coming here to tell us this morning that these are appointees of the president, it is like it is the president who told the parliament appoint or vet so and so and so and so. This is not true. And I think that's what I meant when I was saying it is important. Under what context and circumstances you are saying what, it changes the whole meaning. Because what I hear from Baraza and Uda and even the lawyer that spoke, yes, he's a lawyer, and I like the way he's articulate. However, all these years, those weak parts of the act, where is an amendment that he has actually brought on board to make this thing stronger? And we are behaving and talking here like these members of NCIC, they are just robots who only sit there to wait for somebody to give them instructions. I don't think this is right. Let us contextualize the debate and the discussion that we are having now. Didymus Barasa, I put it to you that you are not honest with Kenyans and you are not telling them the truth. The truth is, yes, the committee of the parliamentary committee vets, but part of what we vet is actually the process of bringing these people to be the names to be forwarded to the president for a final appointment. The president acts as a final appointing authority when a whole process has taken place. So we cannot sit here this morning pretty and say that, oh, these are just appointees of the president. Surely, I think it is good to be honest and discuss these issues with the integrity that is.
Okay, all right.
I want to give you evidence.
Honorable Barasa,
I'll
give you an opportunity. Let me first listen to the panelists because they have not spoken
No,
about
they will react on what I want to give you evidence before they react. Some years back, the former VP Moody Awori was appointed to chair a sports fund. There was an uproar among Kenyans. President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta himself said, nimeweka huyu mzee hapa achunge pesa, vijana wangeba pesa, mngetaka nifanye nini? Meaning,
what position was he named?
He was the chairman of a sports fund.
That's not in NCIC.
The second thing, I'm just giving you an example, not just the NCIC, but all those, nearly all those commissioners. These commissioners, every time they are reconstituted, you will find that the majority of the membership are people who have lost an election either here or there. Does it therefore mean that politicians and those who are politically correct are more qualified than the rest of Kenyans? I tell you what happens every time.
Yes.
In 2017, people will flock State House with names from political parties, from the so-called party leaders, and I can tell you for free that when we say we will free institutions, it's for real. Institutions need to be freed.
Okay, I hear you, Honorable Didymus Barasa, but I'm still struggling with Section 17.
Yeah, it's there, but it's never followed.
Just hold on, Didymus. Membership of the Commission, Section 17, subsection 1, Part B. 8 commissioners nominated by the National Assembly in accordance with the first schedule and appointed by the President. You're a member of the National Assembly. Honorable Barua,
yes.
What do we do? Because of all these things, then it turns out that we are no longer focusing on what NCSC is talking about, hate speech. We are talking about the suitability, the appointment process.
I think, first of all, before I get that, I would like to clarify to Honorable Didibas Baraza that the President has got express authority to appoint heads of state corporations, including the sports fund. That's provided in the Act. Direct appoint them. But when it comes to commissioners, actually the final approval comes from Parliament before the President appoints. So actually the institution to blame is Parliament, not the President. Because if the President rejects the names presented, the President cannot appoint. What I'm finding it interesting here is, Baraza is saying these guys are appointed by, are interviewed, then he said that they're appointed by the President. There's a contradiction. Please argue in one line. The truth of the matter is they are interviewed through a panel. Parliament has a right, like my friend Pamela is saying, to audit both the suitability of the nominee and the credibility of the process. If you don't actually interrogate the process, then you might give us a bad product. And I'm actually concerned that Parliament, as it is now, is always arguing after the fact. We talked about the budget. The budget is a long process whereby Parliament is involved from step 1, A, B, C, up to Z. Then you say that the budget is bad. You should be able to tell us, educate Kenyans at every step what is happening, what is wrong with this process, as opposed to just coming and telling the product is bad. Okay. In terms of this panel, NCIC panel, there are some members of that panel who are that commission, who sit in that commission based on their positions in other institutions. Like the Ombudsman is a member of that commission because of her position or his position. But for the people who are appointed by the President, based on the results of the competitive process, are interviewed, and the Parliament has the final advice to the President. So whatever the President does in appointing is based on advice from the Parliament. Finally, I would like to say that, and I'm telling Kenyans, we are going into August to do an election. Let us elect people who can stand on their 2 feet. Let us elect people who don't complain because they are not benefiting from the process. When they're in the game, it's okay. When they're out of the game, it's bad. Parliament, when you are elected as a parliamentarian from Gishugu or from Kibiriri, you become a national member of Parliament. We should not be able to look as a parliamentarian who is partisan. And that's why I'm asking Didibas Baraza, kindly, please, I want to side with Pamela that you are not honest. And this stage you are playing politics. And this is not a platform for politics. This is a platform for educating Kenyans what is right.
Okay. Wakili Murray, there's something else you told me that NCSC has no summoning power. Section 27 of the Act talks about power to summon witnesses. The Commission shall have power to summon witnesses and to call for the production of books, plans, and other documents, and to examine witnesses and parties on oath. Section 28, summons for attendance of witnesses, summons to the attendance of witnesses or other persons, or for the production of books, plans, and other documents shall be in such form as may be specified by the Commission and shall be signed by the Secretary. So I don't know where that sits with the recent judgment of the High Court on IEBC.
Thank you. I'll explain that, and so at least again we settle that issue. Number one, our Constitution has set out the commissions which are supposed to be independent, under Article 252. And they're independent because the Constitution has said so. Unfortunately, NCIC is not in the list of the institutions which powers have been donated by the Constitution, but it's a creation of an Act of Parliament, that is Act number 12 or 2008. And therefore, if you read again on the same section, it is a minister who passes the names to the President for appointment. Now, the question is, when it comes to operations of NCIC, where do they take the instructions from? They take the instruction from the minister who passed their names to the President, and that minister is the Minister of Interior, none other than Matiang'i and Kebicho. So we can talk about many things about that issue.
Kibicho is not the minister.
We can talk about many things about that issue, but when it comes to operations, you can see clearly.
So how do you suggest it to be done?
Yes, I'm coming there. Because you've also mentioned about the investigating power. So all these institutions derive their power from the Constitution. And NSIC, it's institutions like IEBC, Land Commission, Public Service Commission, those are independent, and their commissions act independently because the Constitution intended them to be so. This is an act of parliament, and they have their boss somewhere. So independent. We may want to wish them they could be independent, and they can. But unfortunately, the law does not allow them to be independent. They depend on someone else. Secondly, on the issue about summoning, the High Court, Justice Mrima, on the case of Sabina Chege versus IEBC, made very serious pronouncements in terms of which institutions are supposed to summon members of public in the event there are issues. Again, Article 252.4 and 252.3 does not donate power to summon people by NCIC. Unfortunately, and that's what we are saying, unless that institution is placed under the Constitution and be given powers to summon witnesses and investigate and do all those things.
Look, my challenge here, because you're an advocate here, the IEBC has no powers to summon because it's an independent commission in the Constitution.
Yes.
And so the Constitution has said these independent offices and commissions can summon, given the list of 4. NCSC is not an independent commission. You're saying it does not derive its powers from the Constitution. Can you then buy it from summoning based on an expression in the Constitution for specific offices?
I've said this. The Constitution, first and foremost, detailed the institutions which are supposed to be constitutional for purposes of independence. That's number one. Number two, Article 252.3 and 4.
It's 3.
Sorry, 3. Clearly has given out the commissions which are who have got powers to investigate and summon witnesses. Now, from the reading of that section of that 252.3, NCIC is not one of them. And therefore, it does not have power to summon anybody because our institutions derive powers from the Constitution. And therefore, if then...
Are you saying NCIC should not exist?
I'm not saying it should not exist because it exists under an act of parliament.
But you're using the Constitution to block its work.
I'm not blocking. That's the law. As a 250, you are reading it, and you can read it to our viewers. Actually, 252.3 does not give powers NSIC powers to summon or even investigate. In fact, if they do, it's ultra-vires. Same thing happened.
What does the Constitution say about NCIC?
NCIC is, I said, NCIC is a creation of Parliament. It's created.
It's not mentioned by the Constitution.
It is not mentioned by the Constitution.
So how would you use the Constitution to buy it? Yet it's not an independent commission. It's not an independent commission or an independent office.
Because the commissions which have been given powers to summon the members of public are well stipulated under Article 252.3 of the Constitution. It doesn't have any powers, unfortunately.
Okay. Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, do you have a take on that? Because there's that confusing matter of...
That is rather confusing, Sam, because much as the NCIC is a creation of the Parliament through that Act, but I think that same Act gives it a role and a mandate and what to do and what not to do. So I am not convinced that under what my colleague is saying is absolutely right. I wish he could also articulate to us what the actual role as stipulated by the very act that he's talking about of NCIC is. Because even if it is domiciled in the ministry, I think that ministry still must have given some powers to it and what they should do. And that's why they are able to identify something that is going wrong and blow a whistle about it and even address that which is threatening our cohesion and unity in this country. So, I without the due respect for my lawyer,
right.
I think we need to be clear on that. We can't just dismiss a commission just because it is domiciled in a ministry. There must be a specific role that they are playing, and part of that specific role, I guess, must be including and involving the need to wonder with Pamela, why are you doing something that is going to create disorder in our country?
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Can I say something?
I want us to take off the feedback, then I come and get your final remarks on what Kenyans have been saying. And you can do this via Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya, as well as at Samgituku. Dikush is saying, the least the UDA brigade should have said was welcoming the NCAC's attempt, then suggesting to engage
with the agency
to streamline the hate vocabulary in a diplomatic angle. The defiance exhibited will one day bite back, I say. Abere Jacob, NCSC Kenya, new hate speech terminologies are good to a country of us that is politically polarized. Only the likes of Didmas sees it as a target to certain political players. It's high time that we need to know as citizens we don't have a copy of another Kenya. Huza HSC, Hatubangwingwi has no race, religion, or sexual orientation. It is a term which opponents may find offensive, but a term which originated from the current political breaking. Vocabularies are part of political parties' campaigns. I thought this was actually a song before it became political. Chalo Wodrozi, the words termed as hate speech should not be used in political campaigns because they are charging the crowd, hence can fuel chaos in the country. Alex Wanjohi, sometimes we Kenyans wonder how an institution like NCSC comes up with some of these conclusions. Someone can clearly see this is just politics between Vijana Fire and Spagwingwi, which is more insightful. Okay, Kitsao Kadenge. The term Hatupangwingwi has a very bad connotation, that of rebellion. I am a teacher, and I can tell you how boys rally one another to disregard lawful instructions while shouting Hatupangwingwi. So it's already in schools. Wilson Mutudo, NCSC should be ready to change the whole dictionary if such common words are causing rumbling stomach. NCSC is a national cohesion body, not a translation body. Wow, the words coming out this morning. Yeah. I want to take just 30 seconds each of you, starting with you, Honorable Baraza. Where do we go from here?
I think this is clearly that NCIC seem not to understand what their mandate is. With the concerns to the suitability and of these commissioners, Kenyans will bear me witness that Kenya is a beautiful country where a position is identified. The person to fill that position is earmarked. Even the qualifications are crafted to suit that particular person. And Honorable Dr. Pamela Odhiambo understands a few months ago, there were attempts by government to review to amend the Roads Act and change the qualifications of the Director General of KERA, that he need not to have to be an engineer. And we found out that they were earmarking somebody to fit that position. We refused that kind of amendments. So when we say, like very many other Kenyans, that certain individuals are earmarked for certain positions, which generally affect the credibility and the competence of these institutions, we know what we are talking about. We are not just making politics. It's something that is rife and Kenyans know. And we need to change and allow meritocracy to be the guiding principle if we want these institutions to function effectively. Okay.
Honorable Barua, your final remarks on where we...
First, I would like to react to what Honorable Baraza is saying. And if certain individuals are earmarked for certain position, and a parliamentarian has evident to that effect, they have a platform to raise that issue to the public. So the fact that the parliament has been silent when these things you are talking about have been happening, it means that you have a parliament that has already failed, which you can see to the list is not competent. The other thing is about NCAC and summoning. You cannot have an institution that wants to talk to people to establish a certain fact without summoning. There are so many ways of summoning people. If you don't have powers to summon as an institution, you can use the institutions within government which have the power to summon on your behalf. There are so many ways of skinning a cat or a rabbit. So the whole thing is that the performance of any institution will really depend on the caliber of the members of that institution, but not the name of the institution. Thirdly, I would like to say that there is this argument which has come from my friend here, Muriu, that NCIC is not mentioned in the Constitution. I want to put it to him that bills which finally become acts when they are signed by the president, bills supported by government are normally aimed at operationalizing the Constitution. The bills, the acts are the ones that operationalize the Constitution. So if there's an institution which has been established by an act of parliament, which bill has been voted supported by government, it is basically addressing a certain part of the Constitution.
Right.
So you can link the bill to that. Okay. The other thing I would like to say is that two things before I conclude, because I want to get my people, is that the issue of Atupangwingwi, to me, either is there or not, does not have no effect to me. Okay. What I expect the Kenya Kwanza to be doing, instead of saying to Pangwingi, na mjui watajua tujui, I will expect them to be telling us of the agenda. Or they want to do in the government. Like for example, the bottom up has not been understood by Kenyans. And it's not even a model.
According to?
According to me. Because a model is a relation between parameters of production and there is expected results. So you have not actually broken down the bottom up to anything that can actually be related to the economic growth.
Finally, conversation.
Finally, I would like to tell Baru...
according to him.
Yeah, according to me. What I would like to ask Baraza is that I was in your space a few years ago, and I used to use the term political losers. I hope you desist from that, because you never know what can happen in the future. Finally, I would like to say thank you.
Those are two finalists.
Yeah? Finally now, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the people of Gishogo constituency for the time we worked with them for 5 years, and I hope that they're going to give me another 5 years to serve them.
You're campaigning.
I'm campaigning now, yes.
That was not part of the deal. Wakili Muriu, closing remarks.
Thank you very much. My closing remarks are 3 points. Number one, just again, because I'm in a space of legislatures.
Yes.
What you wish to be in the Acts of Parliament, please let it be.
Yes.
What you want to be in the Constitution, please let it be. There's no assumption. And therefore, if you want to strengthen NCIC, please give it the teeth when you get that opportunity. I'm saying that purely because, as we sit right now, NCIC is an appendage of the Ministry of Interior as per the Act of Parliament, because that's how they operate, and those are the what you call the instructing client is the Ministry of Interior. I want to just take you back slightly. Remember, there's the issue about the hustler and the dynasty. The late Honorable Kenange had moved even to Parliament to want to change that and criminalize the use of the word hustler and the dynasty. Honestly, and now you can say once again where they got those instructions from. It's very loop-sided conversation.
All right.
Of that
I hear you, Wakili Muriu.
Yes.
Allow me to cut you short because you're running into the next segment. Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, in 30 seconds, on where we go from here, especially in cleaning or keeping the political hygiene in our politics.
I think I'll be brief, but allow me to say the following 3 issues. One, peace and stability of this country is key and so important to all of us. According to me, as a woman and a mother and a scholar in this country, I think all Kenyans, whether political or professional or otherwise, we must safeguard peace, and anything that is going to destroy our peace must be discarded in a hurry. We would rather lack food but have peace. I think that's important. Number two, let there be respect for our institutions, regardless of how they were created. I don't think it is right at this juncture to just insist that because an institution was created or following an act of parliament, which I want to thank the MP who has just spoken, every act of parliament is actually meant to operationalize a part of the constitution. So all these acts of parliament don't just come from nowhere. And therefore, just because the institution doesn't seem to favor or to do what we would like to do, to hear, does not mean that it is that useless. Right. Finally, finally, it is important as all grown-ups, whether we are in politics or in church or in school or at the farm, we need to watch the words that we are using. The term Hatupangwingwi, I think personally I don't like it, because it is a term that if I walk up in my house and I tell my children, please let us clean the house, and they say, Mama Hatupangwingwi, I don't think I'm happy about it. It is defiant, and we must stop making our children rebellious. And we must stop using terms that are derailing our value system and our cultural respect orientation.
All right, I hear you, Dr. Pamela Odhiambo. Thank God that parents are in charge of their children and not the political class. But also some very interesting questions about the place of NCIC in the Constitution at a time that the Constitution limits powers to someone to just 4 commissions and independent offices, yet the NCIC Act itself, Section 27, provides for powers to someone. So that's an ongoing conversation. We hope that you'll find answers and closure to this. Thank you all. Dr. Pamela Odhiambo from Migori, joining us virtually. One Didmas Baraza from Kimilili, and Jogu Barua from Gishugu, and Wakili Mureu Edward from UDA, and he said he's also from Gatanga. That's our time. See you tomorrow, same place, same time.